All right, ANP2 students, we're going to continue on with the metabolism of nutrients. We talked about carbohydrate metabolism, so now we're going to talk about protein metabolism. So we're going to break it down into the digestion of proteins, and then the absorption of proteins, and the utilization of proteins. So I'm going to go to the PowerPoints, or not the PowerPoints, the objectives. So remember, proteins are polymers composed of amino acid units. They're linked by peptide bonds. So a protein generally has like 500 or more amino acids. So they're pretty large molecules. So we got to chemically digest them, break down those peptide bonds, and that will result in smaller peptide units or individual amino acids too, is kind of what we want to get down to. Okay, so whenever we ingest our proteins, after our picture here, they're going to enter the oral cavity. We don't have any chemical digestion going on in the oral cavity. So the proteins are going to enter the mouth, and then they're going to, through swallowing, enter the esophagus and make their way down into the stomach. And so the stomach is the first place where we're going to see digestion, chemical digestion of our proteins. And it's going to be by the enzyme pepsin. So the enzyme pepsin will break down some of our proteins in the stomach, in that acidic environment. All right, then the proteins that don't get completely chemically digested, they're going to move on into the duodenum, in the beginning of the small intestines. And so this is the area where we'll start to get more chemical digestion of the proteins, because the pancreas is producing an enzyme called lipase, and that's entering the duodenum. So these are proteins, proteases. So the proteases will break down the proteins. We also are going to have proteases that are the small intestinal cells are producing. So there'll be some proteins that get broken down by the proteases from the small intestines as well. So get those all chemically digested, and we want to end up with these little individual amino acids. So digestion occurs in the stomach and in the small intestines. All right, so now we're going to talk about the absorption of proteins. So I did find a picture here that actually labels them too. So whenever the peptidases break down those proteins into little amino acids in our small intestines, we're going to have these amino acids be absorbed across the epithelial cells of the small intestines. And then they're going to enter the blood capillary. This again is going to carry those amino acids, just like the sugar molecule, glucose and galactose and fructose, carry that into venules, and then into a vein, and finally the big vein called the portal vein. And from the portal vein, the blood will enter the liver. And that's where, if the liver needs to process, do anything different with these amino acids, then it can do that. And then after the hepatic portal vein and then the sinusoids, it'll get into the hepatic vein, and then from the hepatic vein into the inferior vena cava, and then on up to the heart. And then we have protein, have those little amino acids in our bloodstream. They'll get pumped to the rest of the body. So then how the body utilizes the amino acids that we absorb from the food that we eat is the cells might take them in and use them to, as building blocks, like make other proteins they need. Say it's a muscle cell, maybe it needs some amino acids so it can make another actin protein or another troponin protein. That's the main purpose of how our cells utilize the amino acids that we get absorbed from our food is through building up of proteins in the body. So that's the main way. The other way is if for some reason we have an excess of amino acids, or I guess the other thing is if we don't have enough carbohydrates, and even lipids. Then the protein can be converted and then broken down and used for energy. But this again is not something that our body cells want to do, because they'd rather use all those amino acids to make new proteins and keep building proteins that they need in there for normal functioning. So, but that's a possible fate. It's just, usually under dire circumstances. All right. So that was protein utilization. So I'm going to do another video on lipid metabolism, and then we'll be finished with this chapter.